been living in tents, surviving with aid from Mecklenburg County and support of many other community partners. And we want to thank them for their unwavering commitment to the folks that have been living in the encampment. While the number of people living at the encampment site has ebbed and flowed over this time, we have encouraged and helped many of the individuals find stable, safe housing and have successfully helped many leave the encampment site and improve their situation. Others have refused to accept our assistance. Since the beginning of the pandemic, Mecklenburg County has utilized shelters and hotels to house the homeless, and we continue to have space available today for those living at the encampment site. In mid-January, Public Health received a complaint about the conditions at the site. Since that time, our environmental health staff have worked with the property owners, including the City of Charlotte, the State of North Carolina, and private business owners to clean up the site and ensure that it remains safe for the residents. However, over the last 2 weeks, conditions have worsened significantly, and a growing rat infestation was recognized late last week. Rodents transmit diseases to humans through direct contact, as well as through exposure to rodent feces or urine. The current living environment at the encampment site is neither safe nor healthy. There is an immediate need to protect the health of those living at the encampment site and potentially the health of the broader community if new diseases break out and spread. Again, in both our homeless shelters and our hotels, there is sufficient space for those at the encampment site to relocate. Those who leave will be offered comprehensive wraparound services, including mental health, substance use, housing navigation, and case management. Meals, laundry, and security will also be provided. However, whether they accept the assistance or not, the encampment site is a community health risk and must be cleared and cleaned for the safety of those living there and the larger community. The property owners have agreed to clean the area and eradicate the rats at their expense once the tents are gone. We have received questions from many of you regarding what happens at 5 p.m. tomorrow if there are still people at the site refusing to leave. I think you have heard that CMPD and the sheriff are refusing to enforce the order if the need arises. The city manager made a personal commitment to me to provide the transportation services from the encampment site to the hotels. However, as of this morning, the city has failed to follow through on this commitment. So if you see Mecklenburg County employees in small buses transporting 4 people at a time to the hotels, which is neither efficient nor compassionate, you will know why. Let me be clear that this is not a Mecklenburg County problem. This is a community problem. At a time when we have people living with rats, it is unfortunate that the city and the sheriff would refuse to help. It is particularly troubling since one of the property owners is the City of Charlotte. Let me also be clear that Mecklenburg County is a human services organization. Our primary mission is to help people and solve problems. As of this morning, over 180 people have accepted our offer of a hotel room. We will continue to work tirelessly over the next 36 hours to encourage every single person living at the encampment site to relocate to a safe space. With that, I will now turn it over to Gibby to talk more about the order and to provide an update on our COVID-19 vaccinations. Thank you.
Thank you, Dina. I think you sort of spelled things out really well. I want to re-emphasize the fact that Mecklenburg County Public Health was not involved in the encampment before mid-January, and that came because of a concern and a complaint around the safety conditions and the potential health threats that people perceived because of the trash at the encampment. What we've seen at the encampment since then is a deteriorating situation, regardless of the efforts that have been made to try to clean it up. Additional trash cans have been put out. They're cleaning the porta potties at least twice a day, and within hours, those situations have deteriorated. And that has led to the rat infestation that we're seeing out there now. The other issue that we are concerned about is that there is uncontrolled use of poison out there to kill the rats on the property, which means potential exposure of the individuals that are living there. And lastly, there have been several uncontrolled burns that have required the fire department to come to put the fires out. And there is concern about inhalation issues because of what's being burned. as well as potential spread of the fire when there are people sleeping in tents nearby. So the thing that brought about the imminent hazard declaration was an immediate threat to the individuals living on that site, as well as the potential long-term threat to the community surrounding the site from a public health perspective. And that was the factor that caused us to issue this order. And unfortunately, as we know, these individuals, it would be more helpful if they had more time to get used to the idea of needing to move off the site so that it could be cleaned, and more time working with the advocates and the others who can provide services to them. It was determined that this was an immediate threat that needed to be addressed right away. And that was the rationale behind the 72 hours to move them off the site so that we can address the issue appropriately. I want to reemphasize the fact that we are doing everything we can within the county to make sure that this relocation is done safely, with dignity and respect. And there are lots of different entities that have come together to help us make that happen. But the other thing I want to reemphasize is that this is not a resolution to the long-term issue of encampments and homeless in our community. That's something that has to be addressed on a much broader level. This is an immediate reaction to the issues around health and safety for the individuals living on this site. And lastly, just quickly around COVID, we continue to see a slow decline in our numbers and our metrics. And it's critical for us to continue to implement the actions to prevent further spread and to reduce those numbers further, especially as we move our children back into school. So we hope that people will continue to do the things that we know are making a difference in our community right now. And the other thing to mention about vaccine is we are experiencing a delay in receipt of vaccine, and I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Sullivan to mention that.
Thank you, Gibby. Yeah, so I'm just going to be very brief in my remarks today, and first just say that we continue to vaccinate individuals in groups 1 and groups 2 as per current state guidance, and really are encouraging still individuals who fit in groups 1 and groups 2, including our seniors over the age of 65 who have not yet been vaccinated, to call our hotline or join our waitlist online, and we will reach out about appointment in the very near future. We also are working really closely with our hospital partners and childcare and school leadership to finalize plans for a coordinated approach to provide vaccines to our childcare and pre-K through 12 staff while still providing access to our group 1 and group 2 residents. The only other thing I wanted to say is, as Gibby mentioned, we unfortunately do continue to experience delay in our vaccine shipments due to inclement weather and are doing our best to minimize disruptions to the extent possible. We did reschedule all first and second dose appointments today at the Bojangles Coliseum due to the inclement weather and shipments delays, and will ensure that all individuals have an appointment as soon as possible, and all appointments will be honored. At this time, appointments tomorrow, which is Friday, and Saturday at Bojangles are still on as scheduled, but we will promptly communicate any updates. There are also ongoing delays in the shipment of our Moderna doses that may impact second dose appointments in the next few days. And again, we will ensure appropriate communication occurs. And I want to stress, I know the uncertainty the vaccine shipments have made planning challenging, and we really appreciate everyone's patience and understanding. And our goal is to continue to make sure to communicate as much as possible and ensure that every appointment that is affected by shipment delays is promptly rescheduled and honored. Thank you.
First question today is Brett Jensen, WBT Radio.
Thanks for doing this. Dina, I think these go to you. In terms of the CMPD and the sheriffs, did they say why they refused to help relocate these people, even though I guess maybe in theory they're trespassing? And then the other one is, what is to prevent these people from going to another encampment and setting up shop there, like the one that's going on between College and Graham Street?
So to the first question, it's not clear to me exactly why law enforcement does not want to participate in assisting us with this. That is, we think, something that they would need to do, particularly if there is a trespassing charge that would need to be enforced at 5 p.m. tomorrow. We're not clear by it. They would not want to do that work. And there's nothing that stops people from going to another place and setting up an encampment somewhere else. And so The only way that you can really prevent that is to have ordinances in place that would not allow for that kind of encampment. But we don't have that here in Charlotte, so there really is nothing stopping people from setting up shop someplace else.
Next question is Hunter Sines, WCNC.
Hey there. If you guys knew about the rats in January when inspectors went out there, why was there a lack of planning? Because we're hearing that there was no contact with community partners about this until you actually put the order in effect to start making these response plans.
We did not know about the rats until this past Friday. We have been out there on a weekly basis looking at the situation, recognizing the fact that there continued to be a huge problem with trash and lots of stuff being dropped off at the site and then just left sitting. So we recognize the issue and we recognize the possibility that we may see an infestation at some point, but that was not recognized until this past Friday by my staff. And that resulted in the imminent hazard that was issued quickly after that. So what we recognized earlier in January was more of a quality of life issue, people living in situation where there was trash that was not being picked up, that was not being placed appropriately, and that that was more of a quality of life. At that point, it did not present a specific health hazard. On Friday, when I saw the pictures of the rodents and the feces in the burrow holes, and my staff were able to confirm that we did have a significant issue, then we acted. So I want to be clear, we did not see the evidence of the rats earlier in January.
Could you not have seen this coming in order to better plan ahead for your response and give more time to these organizations, except for 72 hours? It just, from the outside in, it looks like a lack of planning.
So what I can tell you, Hunter, is that public health was not responsible for this site. The owners knew that they had issues there. The homeless service providers that provided services to them, the city knew that we had issues there. There were certain actions that were being taken, as I mentioned, trash pickup a couple of times a day, cleaning the porta potties a couple of times a day. Those actions were being taken, but nothing more was being done at that point. And at that point, public health did not have the authority to do anything because we had not recognized an imminent hazard. As soon as we did, we acted.
Next question is Joe Bruno, WSOC TV.
Did City Manager Marcus Jones provide a commitment to provide transportation, and now he's taking back his word? Tell me more about those conversations with the city, Dina, if you don't mind.
Sure. When I contacted the city manager on Tuesday about, this was before we actually issued the order, to talk to him about the fact that we were going to go ahead and do that, he said, "What do you need from me?" And I said, "I need transportation from the encampment site to the hotel." And he said, "Done." It wasn't until yesterday that I found out from, I guess I was talking to Gibby, and Gibby said, "Well, they gave us the buses, but they didn't give us any bus drivers." And so when I finally was able to talk to the city manager yesterday, he said, "Well, we never expected you to provide bus drivers, but we're going to have the fire department do it." And then last night it got pretty sideways when the fire chief was demanding security on the buses, but it couldn't be CMPD and it couldn't be the sheriff. It had to be CAT security. And at that point, it was clear that they were not really going to be in a position to help us. So that's when we started to move in a different direction, because we have people out there now that we need to transport, and we need to find a way to do that. So after all these conversations, we still don't have any commitment that they are going to provide the transportation that they said they would.
This just goes back to Hunter's question, though. I mean, why wasn't the county better prepared for this? I mean, we don't know how these people are going to be transported from the site to the hotel in about 24 hours. It seems like there's still so many questions out here. Why wasn't this better planned?
Well, Joe, when I talked to the city manager and I say, "Can you provide the transportation?" and he said, "It's done," I assume it's done. When I make a commitment to somebody, to do something, I do it. So when he said it would be taken care of, there was no other planning on my part that was necessary. So we did what we needed to do in order to make sure that we thought we were going to have transportation. We did not fall down on our commitments. You should really ask the city manager that question.
Just a follow-up to that as well, and Karen can probably speak to this better than I can, but people are being transported right now. The county has, since late last night, developed a plan to transport. So it's not like folks are going to be left at the site with no way to get to the hotel. That is in process. And Karen, I don't know if you want to speak more specifically about that.
Absolutely. Thank you. So I'm getting minute by minute updates or moment by moment updates currently that we do have vans that are with county staff helping to assist people in kind of calming nerves and making this as least traumatic as possible. That they are currently pulling up at Roof Above, which is one of our staging areas for folks, and we have staff at the hotel ready to receive people as we are on this conference now.
Next question is Lana Harris, WCNC.
Hi there. So I'm going to very briefly change the topic. You did mention our numbers are going down, and tomorrow through this weekend, there is an event called the Mad Monster Party that is supposed to be at a hotel here in Charlotte/Concord, Charlotte Concord Golf Resort and Spa. There are 45 vendors coming, events scheduled, seems like a sort of convention. I'm wondering how this is allowed. How many people are supposed to be allowed in gatherings? Right now, I thought it was 10 inside, 50 outside. Does that not apply to hotels, or what are your thoughts on all of this?
Well, unfortunately, that's news to me. We have not been contacted by them about this event, and I'm getting many requests for folks to review their plans for events that they're looking at over the next couple of months. But this is one that I've not heard about, so we will follow up with this and work with our COVID ambassadors as well as with CMPD on this particular event and see what steps we need to take. A hotel is not open to have these types of events at this point in time. Restaurants, if there's a restaurant in the hotel, they can, if they meet the requirements of a restaurant, they have specific guidelines as to how many people they can have in the restaurant at any given time. So we will follow up on this, and I appreciate you letting us know.
Yeah, of course. Now they do list safety guidelines that they plan to follow. Is there a safe way to do something like this at this point, even if they did follow these, the standard thermometers and masks and all that kind of stuff? Is it safe at this point? Is there a safe way to do this?
I would say no. As you know, the governor's order is still in place, as well as the directives both from the HHS secretary and myself that says we are asking people not to gather and to stay at home unless there is a need for them to be out. So at this point in time, I would say this does not sound, I don't have specifics, just what you've said, but based on what I've been told, it does not sound like a safe event.
Next question is Robin Kennedy, Fox 46.
Good morning. Thanks for taking my question. Have you all invited any city leaders, city elected leaders, to the table with this tent city issue? And if not, why not?
So we actually did have a meeting, myself, my chairman, Commissioner Jarrell, as well as Councilman Malcolm Graham, and Larkin Eggleston last week to talk about Tent City and to see whether or not there was a way that we could form some kind of group to start talking about what we needed to do out there. So we have started to have those conversations, but then of course we ended up with having to abate the rat infestation so that the Tent City will be cleared. But yes, we had been having conversations with them.
Specifically the mayor, have you all had any conversations with her?
I have not had any conversations with the mayor.
And why is that? I mean, this is a city of Charlotte issue as well. Why wouldn't you go to the top?
Well, that would be a conversation that my chairman would have with the mayor. I would not reach out to the mayor personally, but I had conversations with the city manager who said he was going to go back and have conversations with the mayor. I can't attest to whether or not that has happened or not, but my understanding was that the city manager was going to have conversations with the mayor about what was happening at the encampment site.
Next question is David Borax, WFAE. David Borax, WFAE.
Sorry. Couple quick questions. One is, can you say a little bit about COVID testing and COVID precautions that you're taking with folks who are leaving the camp? And then my other question is more of a long-range one. What happens to people after their time at the hotels runs out?
So we are testing everyone who is getting on a bus to go to the hotel or leaving the encampment for COVID. And as of just a few minutes ago, we had not found any positive cases, which is good news. We're also offering vaccine to anyone at the encampment who is 65 and older. We have offered that before, have not had many takers, but I understand that there may be a few more who may be interested at this point. So we'll make that vaccine readily available. And I'm not sure I'll answer the second half.
I can start, and Karen can certainly help me with that as well. But we are going to be working with these individuals to try to find them, more permanent housing options after the time at the hotel runs out. But this is an opportunity for me to really make a plea to our landlords in the community to really step up and come forward and really help us find housing opportunities for these folks who have been living in the encampment site and who are now residing at these hotels. And Karen, I don't know if you have any more specifics around that.
So what I would say is that this is really an opportunity to really engage with landlords, like Dina mentioned, as well as we are also working closely with our substance use, mental health providers, and other case management organizations to really help people gain stability and move. That emergency shelter is not a long-term solution for anybody, so they will be provided the same opportunities as anyone else in any of our emergency shelters across the community.
Next question is Christy O'Connor, WBTV.
Good morning. My question's for Gibby. It's my understanding that the state is trying to limit people from out of state coming in to get the COVID-19 vaccine. I was wondering if anyone at the health department has experienced people from out of state signing up for vaccine appointments, and if so, is there anything in place stopping that from happening, or will there be in the future?
That's a great question, and it's been a big issue here as well as in other places. So the state has decided, and the direction we've received from the state based on clarification from the federal government, that we would prefer that individuals not travel into our state to be vaccinated if they do not live here or work here. However, again, this is a federal program with federal vaccine, and we cannot restrict it, but we do everything we can as we're making appointments to make sure that we are focusing on Mecklenburg County residents with the vaccine that we have. So again, we have some limitations on us in terms of restrictions, but we are being clear when we're making appointments that we really need people who either work or reside in Mecklenburg, or both, are prioritized for our vaccines.
Next question is Lauren Lindstrom, Charlotte Observer.
Hi, Dina. I was out at the camps yesterday and had seen a flyer going around some of the conditions for folks entering the hotel, including curfews and things that mimic some of the shelter regulations for folks entering those facilities. And we know, and shelter leaders have said that a lot of the reason why people live outside is sometimes they don't function well in those settings with those restrictions. And the sheet that I saw had said, breaking some of these rules would, turn into an immediate termination. I'm wondering what the plan is for people who are just not in a place to structurally to meet some of those structural demands because of either behavioral health issues, addiction issues, things like that? Like, what is the, I guess, attitude around grace periods around that if people can't meet those demands?
Karen?
Yes. So what I would say is that we will have staff at this hotel that are trained to work with people who are struggling with severe and persistent mental illness and substance use. That, we have, other hotels in our community right now because of COVID that we already have. We have a model that we're trying to replicate. So we do have staff that are going to be able to help address through harm reduction and really just trying to help engage people. This isn't to be punitive, that the rules and the structure are really about the safety of everybody that is at that hotel, and for the staff that are there and for all the residents. So it's not about being punitive. It is really about just encouraging safety and wellness for people that are there, and then having conversations with people that if this is not a setting for them, how are we engaging with our mental health providers and helping people get to a level of care that will truly better meet their needs?
Next question is Tanya Mendes, WCNC.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for taking my question. I just have a question regarding the rats. We've been down there before and we've heard from complainants for months that there were other public health issues down there, human feces, urine, unlivable conditions. What is it about the rats specifically that pushes this over the edge when there would be so many who would say that the conditions were unhumane and unlivable for months? So why now?
That's a great question. I will tell you that rats transmit disease. And even more so than the other things that you're talking about. The other issues are not healthy. They're not healthy issues for anyone to live in, situations for them to live in. But those are almost more of a quality of life issue, not typically a way of transmitting disease. We know that rats can transmit any number of diseases, and that exposure to rats, either by coming in contact with them directly or through their urine or feces, can transmit disease. The other issue here is it's a concern for the people that are living on that site, but it's also a concern for the bigger community because these rats are not necessarily going to stay on this property and will look for locations outside of the property in the bigger community. And that is, that's what brings it to a public health crisis, a situation where we really got to act to eradicate before it becomes a bigger issue than just on this site. So the rats are the main concern here in terms of being able to transmit disease to these individuals and to others in our community.
Next question is Mark Becker, WSOC TV.
Yeah, a couple of questions in different directions. First, I guess for Karen, and maybe Dina as well, but specifically when people hear that, the police, the city and the county, and the sheriff's department aren't going to help, people will want to come down and help. Is that a good thing? If so, what can people who are hearing this do without getting in the way?
So in the event that we would have needed law enforcement, it will be at the end of the day tomorrow if we have people who are refusing to leave the site. That would be a law enforcement situation. So we don't believe that there's other people who can come and assist with that. So I think at this point, we're going to ask people to work through our various providers if there's certain things that they want to do to help, if they want to provide financial support, landlords want to provide opportunities for housing. There are ways people can help, but we would really ask that people not come to the site to help because we need to be able to start to relocate those people to the hotel, those that are willing to go.
Okay, thank you. And another question in a completely different direction. Gibby, I guess this might be for you, but looking at the state DHHS dashboard numbers, county by county, Mecklenburg County, we've given 8.08% of our population their first doses. Most counties are above 10%, some as high as 20%. Why is Mecklenburg only around 8?
The main reason is the amount of vaccine that we have gotten. We only are able to give the vaccine that that is provided to us. The other issue is with some of the large events and stuff, we'd have a lot of people from outside of our county who are coming in and being vaccinated. So with the vaccine that we've been given and the size of our population, it's hard for us to get up to those percentages that you're seeing, especially in some of the smaller counties who have fewer people. So we continue to put all the vaccine out there that we can get, and we're doing everything we can to try to prioritize Mecklenburg County residents with that vaccine right now. But it is going to take a while with the amount of vaccine that we're receiving.
In other words, if I may, just to clarify, if someone drives down here from Cabarrus County and gets one of the mass events, let's say at Bank of America Stadium, they would be registered or counted as someone from Cabarrus County who's been vaccinated, even though they got the vaccine here.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Next question is Courtney Cole, WBTV.
Good morning. Thank you for taking my question. It's quite similar to one we just heard earlier, but I've had conversations with people yesterday. They're wondering, okay, 3 box meals a day, laundry, COVID testing, vaccines, 80 plus beds, expanded shelter capacity. They're wondering, why did it take until now for these resources to become available to people living there?
Well, we have been saying all along, and this continues to be true, that we had enough shelter capacity to enable us to house people throughout the time that this encampment has been in place. And we have been offering those resources to people since the pandemic kind of started and when people started to live there. People just did not want to go. But now that we're forcing, I guess, people to go, there's more of an interest. But the resources have always been available. And Karen, I don't know if you want to say more about that, but we've been talking about that for several months.
Yes, I completely agree with what you said. And I would also say that we have been working to figure out what other solutions could be, that we had expanded 20 rooms at other hotels initially as people were gaining interest. So we have tried to be nimble in meeting demand as well. So it isn't like today or yesterday was the first day that the county's been engaging with people that are experiencing homelessness out there. We have been working in tandem with our providers and with grassroots organizations for several months, specifically around folks that have been living outside in this area.
The other thing I'll add is that we recently had a very significant COVID outbreak at the men's shelter, which caused that shelter to come offline for some number of days. So that did reduce some of our capacity, but that was only in recent weeks that happened. But throughout this encampment situation, we have been offering people opportunities to come inside.
I guess the other thing to add to this is early on, the CDC recommended not closing encampments like this as a way of continuing to reduce the potential spread of COVID by moving folks around into different venues and different housing situations. And that has been a recommendation from CDC, is to leave these encampments alone. So there has not been a particular interest or desire based on that guidance to close these sites down just to make resources available, as been mentioned. The problem is we now have the potential for other diseases in addition to COVID at that site. And that was the reason for acting at this point.
Tina, what does Friday at 5 p.m. look like? And if law enforcement refuses to enforce this order, will the county consider legal action?
We'll have to explore that. I think, we are hopeful based on what's happened so far and the interest that we've had from the people there. We are hopeful that we will have everybody relocated as of 5 p.m. tomorrow. We'll have to see where we are at that point in time and see what we need to do at that point. We're really not projecting where we're going to be at this point. We're going to just really try on convincing everybody to come in and take advantage of one of our hotel rooms.
So does cleanup start right away tomorrow night?
So the order requires cleanup to start. The owners have up to 72 hours to completely clean the site and to begin the eradication process. So whether they start Friday night or Saturday morning, I know all of them are in the process of putting plans together for making that happen. and are working on accessing those entities that will help make that happen. So they're all in that process and are all very interested in getting their properties cleaned and free of rats. So I think that will happen quickly.
So I don't mean to hog the thing. My last follow-up question, I swear. But so despite the city kind of going back on its word here, you are seeing cooperation from the 5 property owners with complying with this order.
To date, we have had good response from the property owners, yes.
I don't know who this question is for, but it sounds like the move is happening today. Gibby, I know at the county meeting earlier this week, you said if it was up to you, you'd have everyone out in 24 hours because it's just so emergent of a problem. Why couldn't this move have happened yesterday, especially before this winter storm and bone-chilling temperatures moved through?
Well, we were in process of getting everything set up and able to go. And I do believe there are some people who did go yesterday. If that's true, Karen, you can give me some more details around that.
So we did have people, we referred to other shelter places in capacity there yesterday. But we did spend yesterday really just engaging people, trying to determine who was actually going to kind of take us up on this offer. So that's where we were really in that planning phase yesterday and execution today.
And understand, we have had over 180 people who have said that they want to go to the hotel.
Yes.
So the interest, and actually people have thanked us for providing this opportunity for them. So we're not seeing pushback from the residents out there. We're actually seeing people who are very, very interested in coming inside. And that is really the good news as part of this process, is that we have people that want to come inside.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great news. Moving forward, I know that there is no permanent fix. You've noted that a couple times, Dina. But what is it going to take? I mean, we've had this problem for nearly a year. Is it going to take more money? I mean, have we looked at other big cities that have similar homeless issues and problems? I mean, at this point, this community is at its wit's end when you're out there in the field.
Yeah, so that's a great question. And so we are looking at other housing options. We're looking at tiny homes and sort of variations on the tiny home theme, and looking at potentially some county property that we may be able to leverage for that purpose. So that is something that we're looking at very closely, and we'll continue to do that. Again, I said it before, I'll say it again. The more landlords we can get in to help us with that is going to be very critical. But again, the city of Charlotte, they're really involved in helping us expand our affordable housing capacity. And so we're hopeful that they're going to be partners in this as well and really help us find additional housing options for people who need it.
I know that we're bigger than San Francisco population-wise, but we don't have the same homeless issues that San Francisco does. And you said earlier that there's really nothing to prevent these people from going from one encampment to another encampment to another encampment. But how do we make sure that something like this doesn't happen again or continue to happen over and over and over? And for lack of a better term, like Gibby said a few months ago, we don't want to be California.
Well, I'm not the expert on this, and maybe Karen has more to say on this, but I will tell you that, private property owners need to protect their property. So, I mean, if you let people stay on your property, it gets harder and harder for you to get them to leave. And so if these folks don't have opportunities to camp somewhere, and we can encourage them to come in and take advantage of our resources, hopefully we can mitigate this before it gets to a point where we've seen it out at this North End encampment site. But again, we need to make sure we have the resources to support that, and that's what we'll be working on as we move forward. And I'm going to let Karen speak to this as well.
Right. So what I would just say to that as well, that I think the other thing that I know we're dealing with the COVID pandemic, but we're also talking about an economic crisis as well. We have people that are in this encampment that are employed, but got a week or two or a month or two behind. And COVID has been going on and impacting our economy for upwards of a year now. So we also have, so it is more complicated than what it may sound. And I will also say that we're not experiencing anything that's unique to Charlotte or to Mecklenburg County. We're on calls with national experts and state experts, and everyone is experiencing an increase in homelessness due to the economic impact that COVID has been, contributing to.
And a real quick follow-up, Dina, and in terms of Marcus Jones, are you surprised by this? Because I mean, obviously, it sounds like you are. But what's been your working relationship with Marcus in the past?
I have a great working relationship with the city manager, and so I'll be honest. When he said he would take care of it, and then it was 10:30 last night, and we were not in a place where we knew we were going to be able to move forward. I was very surprised, and quite frankly, very disappointed.
What happens to folks that either have pets or possessions that exceed their 2-bag limit that we've heard about? A lot of folks have either sentimental items or things that I've heard concerns from people out there about being able to bring important items with them.
I would say in response to that the grassroots organizations have worked to provide either totes or bins for people to take 2 totes or bins with them, working with storage are going to be left behind to have a safe place for storage, but we really are helping to find people to help make sure that the important items and what their essentials are really come with them to where they're going, and anything that is left behind, that they're working with grassroots organizations on finding a safe place for those belongings to be until folks are able to move to housing. And as far as service animals go, people will be able to bring their service animals to this hotel and be responsible for those. And if they aren't able to do that, we are working with Animal Care and Control to also provide assistance for those pets as well.
Assistant Manager.
Can I, Dina, I just wanted to clarify. So the city did give buses, correct? They just did not provide drivers. I mean, you don't think this was just a miscommunication?
So initially, the buses were provided, but they did not give us CATS bus drivers to go with those. And then after conversations with the city manager, he indicated that they would provide firefighters to basically drive the buses. But then we got kind of caught up in this whole issue of what kind of security was going to be able to be provided on the buses. But the fire chief said, well, it's not going to be CMPD and it's not going to be the sheriff. But then put it back on the county to try to provide security to go on the buses. Well, we don't have security that has jurisdiction to be able to do security on CATS buses. So we just sort of got to the point where we needed to move on because we had people that needed to be transported, and it was not clear how we were going to get past this security issue. And so we decided that we needed to go in a different direction.
And that is with county staff, correct? Now, currently it's county staff that are driving, correct?
Yes, we have vans that we're using with county staff driving them, and we also have our MTS buses. And we will, if we need to, we will leverage. We have contracts with taxi services that we can use, and so we have staff at Department of Social Services who are looking at all of our transportation options to see what we need to do to make sure that we get these folks transported as quickly as we can.
Gibby, you said that the inspections started in January, if I'm not mistaken, and then the rats were not seen until February 12th, last Friday. And I just wanted to get some insight into how those inspections, how thorough they were, what was carried out on the property from these inspectors, just because we've seen videos of pretty heavy infestation that were filmed in January. I wasn't shown the video until the abatement order was announced, but apparently it was filmed in January. And I just want to know if there were any reports coming in of maybe a rat here or there, or a rodent here or there, or what these inspections look like.
So our staff have been going out and walking the property, having conversations with the residents, but also having conversation with the city solid waste staff that are on the site picking up trash, sometimes emptying trash cans. And so they've been looking at what is going on at the site, and what we've recognized from the pictures that I've seen is a lot of trash. which you would expect at some point to attract rodents. But in the conversations with the city staff, as well as with the residents, we were not hearing of any issues with an infestation or even with rats. I mean, the questions with the city staff about whether they were seeing rats when they were cleaning up trash and things like that, we were being told no. So my staff was out there at least weekly, doing the walkthroughs, having the conversations, and they were meeting weekly with city staff as well as with some of the homeless service providers out there to think about, and with the owners to have conversation and to put things into place to clean up, because we basically put the business owners on notice that these sites needed to be cleaned up, and they were making efforts to try to do that. Those efforts varied from one owner to another. So, that's what I'm saying, is that we were asking the questions, we were looking. My staff deal with rodent eradication across the county on a regular basis, so they know what to look for. And we're not seeing the evidence that we saw when they went out on Thursday of last week and provided the photos to me on Friday. That's when it became really obvious that we had a significant issue that had escalated very quickly.
Dina, this is Tanya. I've got a question for you. So if the city manager is saying there was a safety issue and they didn't have security, and now we have county employees who are driving vans around, do you share the same safety and security concerns that the city is claiming are preventing them from providing staff and resources?
Our staff transport, folks all the time, and we have social workers who can help assist with these issues to make sure that we can de-escalate anything that happens. And so, no, we don't have those same issues. We don't share those same concerns, is evidenced by the fact that we have our employees doing this, and we would never put our employees in danger ever. So, no, we don't share those same concerns.
Hey, Dina, as far as the property owners go, specifically in regards to this encampment area, I know you've answered there's not much keeping tents from popping back up around town, but should there be some sort of policy or consequence for property owners not maintaining their property and allowing people to put tents up again on these properties?
Well, I mean, it's private property, so I guess people have the right to do what they want with their own property. But, there are opportunities for, ordinances that can be passed. And I think you see them in other parts of the country. We've done a little bit of research around this. I think particularly Las Vegas, where they have an ordinance now where they don't allow this kind of camping in these tents in the city. And that has been an effective tool from keeping people from doing this. So I think there's multiple ways that you can approach it. You can approach it from a property owner perspective, but you can also approach it from an ordinance perspective within your locality. And again, that would be something the city would have to consider.
Karen, I'm curious, maybe a silver lining, if there is one, that this weather, because it's going to be so cold, and the rain and the freezing ice potentially, is this maybe instigated in wanting people to get out of Tent City and get to a warm shelter, maybe more than if it were 55 or 60 degrees?
I think that's an excellent point, and definitely a possibility. I will say yesterday people were really excited, and it was a beautiful day. So I think people are just really excited about this resource being made available. And, there are some lessons learned, but we are, I think, working in real time, and people are really excited about this opportunity. So regardless of the weather.
Do you have an estimate of how many people you think will accept the offer for a hotel? I've heard 80 or 90. And my other question is, I'm not asking you to identify the location of the hotel, but can you kind of provide some context of what it's near? Is it near a bus line? Is it near like a big grocery store or something along those lines?
So I'll let Karen answer your second question. My understanding from the numbers that I got yesterday and confirmed this morning, we actually have 180 people, and over 180 people who have taken us up on our offer for assistance to go to the hotel. So quite a big number. And I don't know, Karen, you can answer the second part.
Sure. Yes, we did want to make sure that we did have a hotel that would be convenient to a bus line. And there are like convenience stores, I would say, close to it as well, just to help with some of that transportation. But we do know that we will have meals and snacks available for folks.
So 180 people are interested, but there are only 140 residents of Tent City, 150. So is this hotel being offered to anyone experiencing homelessness?
So I think that's a great point, and I think we had 140 people out there at last count. We have now over 180 that have accepted our offer for assistance. So it may be that people are coming there that were not part of Tent City, that heard about it and are now wanting to access this offer. And you know that's fine. They're all being entered into our HMIS system, which is the computer system that tracks. We use it for coordinated entry to be able to place people in housing, our homeless individuals into housing. So we'll be able to go back and look at the data and see kind of how that transpired. But at this point, our goal is to get people off of that property and into housing or into a hotel, and we'll do the postmortem on the numbers later on. But it was more than we anticipated.
Yes.
Hey, Karen, not asking to identify this location either, but how was the conversation? I mean, does the county own this property, this hotel? Or if not, how was that conversation with the hotel owner? Was there incentives given, or what was that conversation like for them helping out?
So the county has, we opened up our initial hotels back in March and have been really working with hotel owners for the last year throughout this, and really just, you know, these business owners or hotel owners that are really wanting to do the right thing for people on behalf of our community. So we've have existing relationships with some hotel owners, which helped at least getting this location quickly identified when we knew that it was something that needed to happen fairly quickly. So this is a hotel owner that we do have an existing relationship with and was just really eager to help and be part of a solution.
And real quick, I'm sorry if you answered this earlier, Karen or Dina. Exactly how many beds available do you have between the shelters and the hotels and everything else? Like, how many people can you actually put into these places?
Are you talking specifically for the new hotel that we're opening today?
Yeah, that, and then maybe the shelters that, you know, that are already there, that have already been in place and whatever. So, like, how many people could you actually take out of all these tent cities if they all wanted to join right now and say, yes, get me out of here, put me in a shelter?
So we don't have a clear number of people that are unsheltered throughout our community. We know that it's a very transient group of folks. But what I will say is that we are prepared to people that present saying that they are part of this North End encampment, that we are prepared and working to be nimble on making sure that we meet that demand over these next remaining 48 hours.
So you could take up to 300 people, 250 people. You've already had 180 say they want to do it. So, like, how many more people could you accept?
So I would say that we do not believe, and meeting with our Roof Above outreach folks and the grassroots organizations, we don't anticipate that number will be more than 200 people. And we do believe that we've got enough space to be able to accommodate that. And if that means adding another location, then that's what we're in the discussions about doing.
Any more follow-up questions?
One more quick question, Dina. Will you try to be having further conversations with CMPD or the Sheriff's Department about this if everyone's not vacated by tomorrow at 5 p.m.?
Yeah, we'll have to. I mean, if we're at a place at 5 p.m. tomorrow, we do need some assistance to remove people from the site. We'll have to reach back out and see if we can't get anybody to help us.
Any more questions? Last call.
Do you anticipate the possibility of either criminal or other kind of consequences for folks that won't leave, or is that lack of clearing, does the onus of that fall on the property owners who haven't cleared their space? Like, are there possible legal repercussions for homeless people who won't leave?
I mean, that's not the goal. That's not the end game here at all. It's just trying to make sure that we can get the property cleared out so it can be cleaned up. And so, no, it's not what we want. But if we can't get people to leave, we'll have to wait and see how it goes. But clearly, we're going to take a very, hands-off approach and really try our best to try to get people to leave voluntarily. We really want voluntary compliance. That's what we're looking for. Okay, thanks everybody. Appreciate your time today. Have a great rest of your day.